Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition right here on Thumb Coast TV. I'm Brady Beaton, joined as always by Dennis Stuckey. 7 weeks have come and gone in the high school football season. Let's get into it. As always, we start in the MAC. We'll start in the MAC Blue, where a couple of nice wins. You saw Northern clinch an outright MAC Blue title against the Mott team that's a little down this year, and Northern didn't let them forget it.
No, Northern dominated right from the get-go. They scored a couple of quick touchdowns. They were total control of this game after the first quarter, and they just kind of coasted. They were up 35-0 at the half, win it 49-7. They had 3 kick returns for touchdowns. I don't know why you'd punt the ball to Amir Moreland, but they did it twice, and he took them both back. And then Lincoln had a long kickoff return to start the second half.
So, yeah, 49-7 win. Northern, they put this away in the first quarter, and that's what they needed to do. They're now 6-1 on the year, and looking forward, a game at Fitz this week is not going to be an easy game against the outright MAC Gold champions, and a win here likely secures a home playoff game for them.
Yeah, and I know that Fitz has played really well this year. But I like the Huskies' chances in this game, and I like the way they're playing right now.
And Fitz does have a high-flying offense. They are very explosive. This is probably the best team, and no, I say it is the best team they've played since Port Huron a few weeks ago. But for Northern, I feel like this is a test. You go down to Fitz and you get a win, and you do so dominantly. Now we can start to talk about, all right, maybe you can make some noise in the postseason because you're probably going to be matched up with a couple of MAC white schools, if not 3 of them, and going down to Fitz and winning by a couple scores, I think is just another confidence booster for this team.
Yeah, I think the Spartans are probably the best offense Northern has faced so far this year, or will face this season so far. But again, I don't think Fitzgerald has faced a defense like Northern's. And I like the way Northern has got their offense together now. It's more than a small sample now. They've done it 5 weeks in a row. And Fitzgerald does tend to give up some points.
All right, PH, they went down to Cuzno. They took one on the chin, 28-18. They made a couple of mistakes. Cuzno, a good team. PH falls to 4-3, but there's still a lot ahead for the Redhawks.
Yeah, and an interesting game with Lamphere. You get the feeling this one's going to be low scoring. That these are 2 really good defenses. And the question will be, can PH punch enough across the goal line to win this game at home? I think they have a chance to.
I would say so too, but the loss at Cuzno, I would have liked to see them go down and get a win, but Cuzno's having one of their better years in a while. And going on the road, yeah, they come up a little short there.
Yeah, but all reports were that PH played hard in this game and that they gave a pretty good effort.
Yes, so they fall to 4-3. As you mentioned, they host Lamphere this week as their last home game of the regular season. If they win out, they'll have a decent shot at getting a home playoff game because of how tough their schedule has been. Marysville, it hasn't been tough for them. They beat Warren Woods Tower 57-0. That was pretty much expected.
Yeah, we saw this one coming. The Viking defense did what it's supposed to do against a team like Tower, and the Viking offense did even maybe a little more than we expected them to do against a defense like Towers. But 57-0, they were going to win this game. I'm glad they won it big.
Yeah, and Tower has been bad. Like, they've been really bad. They've been shut out in 4 straight games, and the margin of defeat has been 50-plus for the last 3 games. So it doesn't surprise me that Marysville went and got the win, and especially after having to play some tough ones. Now, Lakeshore was the dud mixed in there where they beat them by 39. But when Marysville's been way better than a team, they've absolutely dominated that team.
Which is what Marine City's been doing all year.
Yeah, so let's go to the MAC Silver, where St. Clair and Marine City, they both picked up wins. 51-2 for St. Clair over Sterling Heights, and for Marine City, a 67-0 win. There was never any scenario where either of these teams lose these games.
No. If you want to nitpick, Marine City missed 3 extra points or they would have won 70-0. And St. Clair had a 99-yard touchdown called back, and that's how Sterling Heights scored, because it was a holding call in the end zone, is what you told me. So 51-2 was the final there.
Yeah, I mean, St. Clair, they were going to win this game. They always were. This sets up a big one against Hazel Park, where they win, they're probably in the playoffs.
It's a big game, and it's not a gimme either. Like there was a time early in the season where I would have said, oh yeah, St. Clair will beat Hazel Park in week 8, and that'll be a big win for them. Hazel Park's not a pushover. They made the playoffs last year. They're 5-2 this year. Yes, they're a bronze team, but the top half of the bronze really should be the bottom half of the silver, because those teams are too good for the bronze, and the bottom part of the silver should be playing in the bronze.
Well, Hazel Park, they're 5-2. Their only loss is a one-score loss at Marysville, and a Madison team whose only loss is to Marine City. They got beat up by them. Hazel Park is not a team that, like you said, St. Clair can just roll over. In fact, this is probably a 50-50 game.
Yeah, but it's a must-have for St. Clair. I know that in week 9 they go to Northern, and if you somehow won that game, it would catapult them into the playoffs. But I don't like their chances against Northern. They must win this game this week to keep their hopes alive.
Absolutely, and it also secures another winning season, or at least winning regular season for the Saints. Now we can actually start to talk about Marine City again, because they go to Notre Dame Prep. And Notre Dame Prep 5-2, defending D5 state champions. This is a big-time game after really 6 weeks of clunkers for Marine City, and it's not their fault. I mean, Madison is actually probably their best win at this point. They beat up St. Clair, and then the rest of the MAC Silver, yeah, they took care of business against Centerline, Southlake, East Point, and Sterling Heights. So now you go from, all right, just show up and you win, to now you got to play your best football.
Yeah, and it's interesting because last week Eli Volkman played quarterback for them the whole game. And Marine City won't show up at Notre Dame Prep not ready to play, but you wonder if the soft games before really help or hurt them, or
It's
whether
just
it'll
there
make
was
no
so many
difference
in a
at all.
row.
Yeah.
It's not that they had some soft games. They haven't played really a competitive snap since, we'll be generous and say St. Clair, because for a little bit that was kind of close. So we'll say in 4 weeks they haven't played one, maybe early in the Centerline game, but at best it's been a month.
Yeah, and to add to that, not really excited that Notre Dame Prep beat Traverse City St. Francis and put 60 points up on them.
Yeah, Notre Dame Preps, they're good. They're not what they were last year, because last year they were an absolute behemoth that just steamrolled everyone en route to a state title. This year they're just a pretty darn good team. Marine City's a pretty darn good team. Now they have to go down there. I think for Marine City, though a win or a loss is inconsequential. What they do in the postseason is going to determine if this was a good opponent to schedule, because they're trying to get ready really for Almont, possibly down the line Jackson, Lumen Christi. That's what this game is for, is to get them ready for a postseason run where they hope to knock off a big boy, and this is a big boy. So if they unless they lose this game 50-0, the result doesn't matter as much to me, because I know what this Mariner team is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, but I will throw in, if they do beat Notre Dame Prep, they might be hosting through the regionals.
That it would be a big jump. I don't know if they'll pass Almont, because Almont is way ahead in playoff points. But yeah, it would definitely make them one of the stronger favorites in Division 6. And now you go, okay, there's no one they can't beat. It's a good litmus test, but I don't think it's going to crown them, or it's fatal if they lose this one.
Yeah.
By the way, we didn't mention Marysville hosts Clintondale. They should win that one. Clintondale, not a bad team. They're better than Tower, but they still should.
They started 4-0 though, and they've lost their last 3 games. I'm wondering if they're banged up because Clausen beat them pretty bad in the middle loss of the 3 losses.
And that's the one bad one, Madison and Hazel Park. I mean, the Hazel Park one was close. Madison is just, I think Madison's pretty darn good, and they're starting to become maybe one of the teams to look after in Division 8. This is a team Marysville should beat. I don't know if you can roll the ball out like you could against Tower and get the win. While we have some time, Dennis, on Saturday you did get to see Cardinal Mooney. They played against an undefeated Cabrini team, and, well, they lose 42-7, kind of where you thought it would be.
Yeah, and Cabrini, pretty solid. I like their quarterback, and they've got a really big wide receiver, and he was just too big and too strong. The Mooney kids couldn't tackle him, and you couldn't keep the ball out of his hands if they wanted to get it to him. It was a pretty easy pitch and catch, and Cabrini had this one in the bag. Mooney put up a fight for about a quarter and a half, and then there was a 64-yard jet sweep kind of play, and the game was over after that.
So Mooney now 0-7. They'll get a chance this week, though, against another winless team in Bishop Foley, who's also struggled big time.
Yeah, and neither of these teams have scored many points, so it might be the first team that scores on Saturday wins the game.
Absolutely. So that will do it for the MAC. A lot happening in the BWAC, including Almont continuing their dominance. We'll go over that, take a look at what happened up in the Thumb when we come back here on the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition, right here on Thumb Coast TV.
From doctor's appointments to work, shopping, and dining adventures, Blue Water Area Transit buses are the lifeline of our community. Depend on us for a ride that connects you to life's essentials. Blue Water Area Transit. Ride the wave.
Riding the bus will avoid the hustle and save you lots of dough. Road rage, don't chance it. Ride Blue Water Transit everywhere you go.
Welcome back to the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition right here, Thumb Coast TV. Brady Beaton, Dennis Stuckey. Let's go to the BWAC, where we have at least one of the champions, probably the only champion. Almont beats Richmond in Richmond 35-14. I was out at this one. It was a pretty good game for the first half. 14-7 Almont. Richmond fumbled going in on a 2-minute drill that would have potentially tied it at halftime. But in the third quarter, Almont outscored Richmond 21-0 and forced a turnover deep in Richmond territory. That was the knockout blow. And Almont was just as good as they've ever been. They win 23 straight in the BWAC. They are now, I believe, 24-1 in their last 25 regular season games. And this team just continues to get stronger as the year goes on.
Yeah, they're really proving that they're pretty good, aren't they? And this is 2 weeks in a row where they've taken a close game against a good opponent and blown it open in the second half. I like the strategies that they've been using. Guys that for the first part of the season were maybe playing more on offense are now playing a little more on defense, and that's made them even tougher. And their starting defense really hasn't given up very many points this year to begin with. And then offensively, they spread it around. Like we always say, you look at the numbers and they won't wow you, but when you look at the numbers, they've got 6 running backs with over 100 yards and 6 running backs that have at least a touchdown, and they've got a couple of guys who are up in the 600 and 500-yard rushing category, and they have 8 touchdowns each. Almont's got some guys.
Yeah, they do. They just don't have one amazing superstar. They have a lot of really nice football players, but they don't have one guy that they lean everything onto. Defensively, they fly around. I think they're extremely well coached. And this was a big statement win because Richmond was the last big contender. They still have to go to North Branch to secure the outright title, but Almont just keeps getting better and exponentially better. Like I don't think this is the same team you saw in week 1 by any means. And this was supposed to be a rebuilding year. Not rebuild as they would be bad, but they lost a really good class with guys who we've been talking about for 2 or 3 years. And maybe a step back, not to miss the playoffs, but lose a game or two, be 7-2, and maybe not the 1 seed in the entire state in D6. No one told the kids in Almont they were supposed to have a down-ish year, because they are playing arguably as good, if not better, than they did last year.
You know, and again, I'm going to bring it back. That coaching staff does a great job. Their schemes are really tough to deal with. They prove it year in and year out. I mean, we're talking about from week 2 through week 8, they play teams that have seen it year in and year out and still can't figure it out to stop it.
Well, they know what's coming. It's hard to stop because there's so many little wrinkles that are hard to figure it out. And again, a lot of the players, like Blake Lane, he can sling it if he needs to. Like, he's a T quarterback, but he can throw it if he needs to. Boholsky, Stewart have been very solid, along with the other Corneau, the other running back. Corneau plays both ways. It was Colton Carbell, who's a sophomore, that had a great game defensively for them against Richmond. And a Richmond offense that they were the ones that wore teams down. They were the ones that would get better as the game went on. And Richmond had to figure out how to take the punch. That's their first loss of the year. And yeah, the BWAC's probably not going to happen. Unless North Branch upsets Almont this week, Richmond's going to finish second in the BWAC. They'll probably still be the number 1 seed in their district, likely the region, depending on how they sort it all out. But Blue Devils still have everything in front of them. Now I want to see, how does this team respond to adversity?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because it had been a magical season up to this point.
And it still can be.
This was the first bump in the road for them. So, yeah, how do they handle that? I don't think it will derail them.
Well, they have Algonac and L'Anse Creuse North. They're going to go
win their next 2 games.
Yeah, they're going to be 8-1. It's really, from my perspective, you know, if I'm the coach over there, I'm hammering home, take care of business, get us to 8-1. But, you know, internally, I might be having some talks like, okay, you go, let's see what Armada's starting to do now as their season winds down. Let's see what Frankenmuth, let's see what Notre Dame Prep is doing, and start looking at that postseason and those potential matchups, because in the first round or two, you're probably going to get a Yale, maybe Armada, depending on what happens the last 2 weeks. So you're going to have a familiar opponent. But, yeah, maybe I put some resources into that Notre Dame Prep pile. Now, it helps that they're playing Marine City. I know those 2 coaching staffs get along. Frankenmuth, they play Armada in week 9. So a couple things that are breaking Richmond's way, getting ready for the postseason.
Yes. I thought Richmond was going to be a tough matchup for Almont. I just thought Richmond's strength matched up with Almont's strength on offense. It didn't happen, though. So kudos to Almont. And I'm with you. Richmond will bounce back. I think they're going to be certainly the favorite team in at least their next, I'm going to say, 3 games.
Yeah, because they're probably not getting a tough matchup. It could be, I mean, again, depending on what random team falls in or out and how the dominoes fall, they could be in a district with Yale, Armada is likely, and maybe Hazel Park, maybe Detroit, Denby.
Yeah. And anybody really but Armada, to me, is Richmond's the favorite.
Right.
I know they beat Armada, but that was a tight game. Those teams are pretty even.
Yes, they are. Speaking of Armada, they go up to North Branch, a 31-14 win. That's a nice win against the North Branch team that's better than 2-5. And Armada's only 2 losses are to a win against Almont, or an undefeated Almont team, and a 1-loss Richmond team.
Yeah, who were undefeated before last week.
Yes. So don't count Richmond out just because they have a 2 in the loss column. They could get a rematch with Richmond. I wouldn't be surprised if Armada beat Richmond in the rematch.
They were beating them the whole game the first time around until the last minute, although I did think that night Richmond was the slightly better team.
So Armada, North Branch falls to 2-5. It just has been the opposite of a magical season for North Branch. They're 2-5. You know, maybe if you beat Almont, you at least get a little bit. You can play the spoiler role, and I know Richmond's going to be rooting for them like crazy. You get it at home. Armada was a 14-7 game at halftime, so it's not like they got blown out in this one. But, yeah, North Branch, not a lot left to play for but pride.
Yeah. And I don't know if that'll help them against Almont. But also, how satisfied is Almont with things at this point, and how important is it to win the title outright or to keep their streak going?
Well, Coach Lusby basically told me after the game, like, if we share, then we didn't win the title. We don't count shared titles, only outright. So they're looking to win it for the third straight year, an outright BWAC title.
All right.
Which is, again,
they should be ready to
ridiculous. If they did it once, I believe 07 to 09 off the top of my head, I believe they won 3 straight, but I don't believe they are all outright. But yeah, they go up to North Branch. How about Cros-Lex? What is Cros-Lex? All right, they're 3-4.
An enigma.
They just dominated Emily City, which surprised me because they struggled with Algonac at home. Then they go on the road and just whoop on Emily City. So their 4 losses: Swan Valley, I believe, is 6-1. Armada, 5-2, but we just went over their 5-2. Richmond, 6-1. Almont, 7-0. But their wins: North Branch, 2-5. Algonac, 1-6. And Emily City, 2-5. What is this a good team? Is this a bad team? And they usually win by a lot or lose by a lot. They haven't had a 1-score game yet this year. In fact, they've only had 1 2-score game this year.
Yeah, well, I think that they've played 4 really good teams, so they're not a really good team because they haven't been able to handle those teams. And then they've played 4 teams that are weaker that they were better than by a lot. And so now this week, they finally have, I think, a 50-50 game, and maybe this will tell us a little bit more of what we want to know about Cros-Lex when they play Yale. It's a huge rivalry. These teams, they hate each other, period. End of conversation. They do not like each other. It's a big deal. Yale, they might already be in the playoffs.
They probably need 1 more win. They do have 0-9 Powers because Yale did beat Algonac 28-6. Powers is 0-7 after this one, so that's the safety net. But you win 2, you flirt with a home playoff.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a big deal to both teams. I don't think Cros-Lex could get in unless they win this week and beat Ogilma Heights and the dominoes fall in the right spots for them.
They're not out yet.
Yeah,
they're not eliminated. It's just not likely. But at 5-4, you at least give yourself a chance.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a very important game. And, I don't know. I wouldn't put it past the Pioneers to perform well in this one.
But I'll go back to something Yale head coach Garrett Grunman told us all the way back in July, or when we had him on our podcast. He goes, he knew. He said, we need to make this a rivalry. We owe Cros-Lex one. I believe 2017 was the last time Yale beat Cros-Lex. Yeah. That's going on the better part of a decade. So to say that this Bulldog team hasn't had this game circled for a while would be a lie.
No, and this, to me, this is also kind of, I know it's not a playoff game, and I know Cros-Lex might not even make the playoffs, but if you're Yale, I think you have to approach this like a playoff game because you've got a young quarterback who hasn't been in the really bright lights yet. This is an opportunity to kind of be in the bright lights, and this will be more like what a Week 10 taking snaps in Week 10 will be like this week.
And you have to go on the road to Cros-Lex.
Yeah. So
that makes things tougher.
I just think I think it's a big game for both teams.
All right, let's go up and around the thumb. In the Big Thumb Black, Harbor Beach, outright champs. Reese gave them a fight 33-14, but Beach 7-0.
Yeah, Beach is good. Reese is better. Beach is good.
Yes, Marlette fell to Vassar 50-30.
Been a long year in Marlette. Nothing good has happened for them since week 1.
No, it has been a tough slate for the Red Raiders. USA got the win over Ubly, 28-22. That win, or that loss for now, knocks Ubly out of the playoffs. They still have Cass City and Clinton coming up. I don't know if Ubly's going to be dancing this year.
Yeah, because Cass City is really good. That Cass City, Millington, and Laker all bumped each other off, and they finished in a 3-way tie in the white. So that's a good Cass City team. I'm very interested because the last 2 weeks of the regular season, Beach has already beaten Cass City in week 1 by a lot, and they're going to play Laker this week and Millington next week. Millington doesn't have a game this week, so they got 2 weeks to prepare for Beach. Very interested to see how these teams play these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Sandusky, they ended up, they're going to play, or they lost to Carroll, 30-28. I don't think either of these teams are 2-5 bad, but someone had to fall to 2-5 because no one was beating the top teams in that league.
Yeah, again, I hate to say it, but Carroll is vastly better than they've been the last couple of years.
They were a clown car last year.
Yeah.
And now they're
it was bad.
No, they're not the best team out there, but they're a heck of a lot better than they were last year. Up in the 8-man part of the thumb, let's go through the Big Thumb Black. Brown City, they didn't play against Mayville. They get a forfeit win. They're 5-2. Deckerville, huge win over Kingston, 22-14. The Eagles are 7-0 and have won a lot of games in a row.
Yeah, and they'll clinch the league outright with a win over K-Pac this week if they can get that.
They'll get that.
They'll get that. But let's give the Chiefs a little credit because I think they've pitched back-to-back shutouts, and that's not easy.
And K-Pac is 5-2, and right now they're tied for third in the league.
Yeah.
So it's not a roll the ball out and win scenario, but K-Pac in their 2 biggest tests, they lost by 42 to Brown City. They lost by 42 to Kingston, 39 to Brown City. So they haven't been close in those 2 games. Deckerville is above what those 2 teams are, but still a nice season for K-Pac. They shut out Memphis 48-0 to get to 5-2. They'll probably be playing Peck for a shot at the playoffs in Week 9.
Yeah, and the Kingston coach sent an email over to us, and I kind of liked what he said. They were down 15-0 at the half and battled in the second half, and he said, this game isn't going to define us. We're still a really good team. And right now, they're one of the higher seeds over in D1 for 8-player.
Dryden wins at Bad Axe 60-24, and Memphis, as I mentioned, fell to K-Pac 48-0. In the Big Thumb Red, Peck had a tough non-conference game against Cedarville. They fall by 20, 48-28, and CPS chance at win number 1. They drop it at Merritt 36-30.
Yeah, that game kind of went the way I thought it would be. It was a 1-score game, a little higher scoring maybe than I thought, but neither of those teams can stop anybody.
All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Get Stuck on Sports TV edition. For Dennis Stuckey, I'm Brady Beaton. We'll talk to you next week right here on Thumb Coast TV.